I need to talk about carbon dating for just a moment. And some of you will think this is going to be incredibly boring and move away. But please hang in there for just a moment, and I'll try and make this have an incredible ending for you. All right. Where carbon-14 comes from is a carbon or cosmic radiation hits nitrogen in our atmosphere, which is about 4/5 of our atmosphere, and it converts a neutron to a proton. And so carbon or nitrogen then becomes carbon-14, which is an unstable isotope of carbon. And so scientists use this to date dinosaur bones and other kinds of organic matter that has been breathing in the atmosphere and then died. But here's the kicker. In the scripture, it says that there was a significant layer of moisture in the upper atmosphere. And there is evidence that corroborates that. And if that's true, then the carbon dating is really, you could not use it for anything that lived back when this layer of moisture was in the upper atmosphere. For the simple reason is that the moisture would prevent the cosmic radiation from hitting the molecule or the atoms of nitrogen in our atmosphere. And so with this layer of moisture, there would be no radioactive carbon, no carbon-14. And so now the evidence that there was a layer of moisture in the atmosphere is found partly at the poles. And so if you go to Axel Heiberg Island, there are places where there are stumps of tropical trees that at one time grew out of the ground. And you can see where the tree has fallen and become petrified. Now the only way that you could have a tropical plants growing in the high Arctic is if there was a layer of moisture in the upper atmosphere. Or this is one way that it could happen. And so the layer of moisture would tend to diffuse the sun's radiation. It would diffuse the light and the heat, and so it would tend to make the poles less hot, or it would tend to make the equator less hot, and the poles less cold. It would diffuse it would spread the heat around a lot more evenly, and so the desert would not be as hot, and the poles would not be as cold. As well, water vapor, moisture, is 800 times the greenhouse gas that carbon dioxide is. So this whole planet would be tropical at one time. And if you go to South America, in the coal seams there are imprints of tropical ferns that at one time grew at the South Pole. So that is consistent with a layer of moisture, a significant layer of moisture in the upper atmosphere. And this upper atmosphere would prevent there being much carbon-14. And so anything that you dated, if this layer of moisture was there that had lived before the flood, would appear to be much older than what it is. And since we have evidence that's corroborative of the scripture, then that casts serious doubt upon carbon-14 dating. Now there's a verse in Peter that says, "Of this they are willingly ignorant, that all things continue since the beginning of the creation as they are today." And so they assume a continuum that the evidence says wasn't there. And I believe in constants, like the speed of light through a vacuum, the speed of sound through a vacuum, the weak nuclear force, the strong nuclear force, the gravitational force, the magnetic force. All these constants are reliable. They don't change over time. But the amount of carbon-14 in our atmosphere has changed. And there is more evidence that the scripture is right than that there has been this constant for all time.